YouTube channel Symbiosis. So in this lecture, I am going to discuss about the Lewis acid base theory. So before going to the Lewis acid base theory, it is very important to have some idea about the curved arrow notation. So what is this curved arrow notation? So basically this curved arrow notation shows the movement of electrons. Okay, so in any chemical reaction there possess some kinds of movement of electrons. So how these types of movement of electrons is happening in case of any acid base reaction, that is very important thing to know. So that is the thing that I am going to describe before discussing about the Lewis acid base theory. Okay, so suppose there are 2 points, point 1 and point 2. Okay, so suppose there are some difference in electron density between these 2 points. Okay, suppose point number 1 has higher electron density compared to point number 2. Okay, so what will happen in that case, that the electron, there will be a movement of electron from point number 1 to point number 2, because point number 1 has higher electron density and point number 2 has lower electron density. So there will be always a tendency of movement of electrons from a point having higher electron density to a point having lower electron density. Okay, so now this movement of electron can happen in two ways. Okay, so this is the first way where the two pairs of electron can move from one point to another point. So this is a pair of electrons, it can move from one point to another point, and that is being shown by double barbed arrow. So double barbed means this. So this means that there is a movement of one pair of electrons or two electrons, that is shown by double barbed arrow. On the other hand, in some cases there can be a movement of single electron. Okay, only single electron can move from one point to another point, which is shown by a single barbed arrow. Okay, so this is double barbed arrow showing the movement of an electron pair, and this is a single barbed arrow showing the movement of a single electron. Okay, now let's understand this movement of electron by some reactions. Okay, so if we place hydrochloric acid in water or in aqueous solution, so there will be this reaction will happen. So if you just closely look at this reaction, this is nothing but the acid base reaction. So how it is a acid base reaction, you can see that this hydrochloric acid basically donates one proton to this water molecule. Okay, so this water molecule will become hydronium ion, and this hydrochloric acid will lose one chlorine atom and will become the chloride ion. Okay, so according to the Bronsted-Lowry acid base theory that I have discussed in my previous lecture, so if you haven't gone through that, please, there is a link in this description, you can go back to that lecture to understand what is called the Bronsted acid and what is called the Bronsted base. Now according to the Bronsted and Lowry theory, this hydrochloric acid basically donates one proton to water molecules. So that's why this hydrochloric acid is called the Bronsted acid. On the other hand, this water molecules that accept one proton, and that's why it is called the Bronsted base. Now let's understand this reaction mechanism by using this curved arrow notation. Okay, so this is the structure of water molecule where the oxygen molecule has two lone pairs of electrons. Okay, so this oxygen molecule is a basically electron rich center because it has two lone pairs of electrons. On the other hand, if we see the in case of hydrochloric acid, we know that the chlorine atom is highly electronegative, so it will draw more electron density towards itself. So that's why there will be creation of some partial negative charge on chlorine atom and partial positive charge on hydrogen atom. So these types of effects are called basically inductive effect. Okay, so due to that inductive effect, this hydrogen center will have some partial positive charge. Okay, now we get the point number 1 and point number 2. So this is the point number 1, which is the electron rich center, and this is the point number 2, which is electron deficient center. So there will be the transfer of electrons from the electron rich center to the electron deficient center. So you can see that this oxygen molecule basically donates one lone pairs of electrons. So that's why we have shown it by using some double barbed arrow sign, and it will goes to this electron deficient center. So you can see that it will form so as this lone pairs of electrons are basically donated, so this hydrogen chlorine bond will be broken, and one hydronium ion will be formed and one chloride ion will be formed. So this is nothing but this acid base reaction, but I have shown it by using some curved arrow notation. Okay, now this is another reaction in between the hydronium ion and hydroxide ion. This is also one type of acid base reaction where you can see that this is the electron rich center, that is electron rich center, and this hydrogen is electron deficient, similar to the inductive effect, because this oxygen atom has some positive charge on it. So that's why this oxygen is very highly electronegative atom, draws most of the electron density towards itself. So that's why this hydrogen atom will have some partial positive charge on it. So that's why this is an electron deficient center. So there will be a movement of electrons from the electron rich center to the electron deficient center, and this hydrogen oxide bond will be broken and 2 moles of water molecules will be produced. Okay, so this is the way by which we can show any acid base reaction by using curved arrow notation. Okay, so now let's move to the next uh, slide. So here I have given you some problems. Okay, you can solve some of it. So basically what you have to do, you have to determine what is the reaction product, and also you have to predict the reaction mechanism. Okay, so now I am just giving you one I am solving some problems. So you can see that here this oxygen atom is basically an electron rich center. Okay, and I have already told you that in case of hydrochloric acid, hydrogen atom is partially positively charged and chlorine is partially negatively charged. So that's why this is an electron deficient center. Okay, so there will be movement of electron from this electron rich center to the electron deficient center, and this bond will be broken. So this is the product that will be formed. Okay, and chloride minus ion will be formed. So this is the product that will be formed. So this is nothing but a type of acid base reaction which is shown by these types of curved arrow notation. Similarly, if you see this reaction where you can see that nitrogen has a lone pair of electron, so basically this is electron rich center, and on the other hand this hydrogen atom, due to the inductive effect of this group, of this whole group, it will give some induce some inductive effect. So that's why there will be a partial positive charge will be created on this hydrogen atom. So electron will be transferred from nitrogen to hydrogen, and this bond will be broken. So the product that will be formed is like this. Okay, so this is the reaction I have shown you by using this curved arrow notation. Okay, now you can solve the rest of these two problem, and if you do have any problem sorry, while solving these things, you can ask me to the comment section, then I am always there to solve this, okay, for you. But at least you should try this thing on your own. Okay, now let's come to the Lewis acid base concept. Okay, so according to the Lewis acid base concept, acids are electron pair acceptor. So acids are those moieties or those chemicals which are accepting electron. Okay, on the other hand, bases are those electrons which are basically electron donor. They basically donate electron pairs. So acids accept electron and bases donates electron pair. That is the definition of acid and base according to the Lewis theory. Now I have already discussed about the Bronsted-Lowry acid-base theory. So there is always one theory that has been that was before that Lewis acid-base theory. So according to the Bronsted-Lowry theory, acids are proton donor and bases are proton acceptor. So why do we need this Lewis acid-base concept? There is already Bronsted-Lowry theory. So is it not sufficient or what? Why we require another acid-base theory, that is called the Lewis acid-base theory, that I am going to explain in this slide. Okay. So why we need some separate theory of Lewis acid-base concept instead of Bronsted-Lowry theory? I will show you that this Lewis acid-base concept is much more general concept. Because if you go along with this Bronsted-Lowry theory, then you will miss many things. You will miss some chemicals being acids or bases. You cannot predict by using this Bronsted-Lowry theory. So this Lewis acid-base concept is much more generalized compared to the Bronsted-Lowry theory. Now let's take one example. So there is a reaction between hydrochloric acid and ammonia. You can see that there is a lone pair of electrons. So this is the electron rich center, and it will donate electron to the electron deficient center, and these are the product. Now if you see that this moiety is basically an electron donor, so it donates the electron. So according to the Lewis acid base theory, as it is an electron donor, so it is a base. This is according to the Lewis acid base theory. On the other hand, this moiety accepts electron, so that's why they are called acid. That is according to the Bronsted-Lowry. So this is according to the Lewis acid base concept. On the other hand, if we just apply the Bronsted-Lowry theory, then we will see that this ammonia basically accept the proton. So they are basically proton acceptor. So that's why according to the Bronsted theory, they are base, because bases are proton acceptor. On the other hand, this hydrochloric acid is basically a proton donor. They donate one proton to the ammonia molecule. So according to the Bronsted-Lowry theory, they are this hydrochloric acid is basically nothing but acid. So in this reaction, this acid-base reaction can be explained by both Lewis acid-base concept as well as Bronsted-Lowry theory. But there is another reaction, that is the reaction between the aluminium chloride and ammonia. Now here comes the problem, because this reaction, acid-base reaction, cannot be described by using Bronsted-Lowry theory, because there is no transfer of proton. Okay, if you see the reaction product, the aluminium chloride do not accept any proton, or ammonia do not donates any proton. So there is no transfer of proton, but still it is an acid base reaction. So in that case, Lewis acid base concept become very much handy, because by applying this Lewis acid base concept, we can identify which is acid and which is base. So how we can identify it? I'm just showing you right now. Okay, so you can see this ammonia, it is having some two lone pairs of electron, and it is donating to this aluminium. Okay, so you can see that this is a electron donor. So according to the Lewis acid base theory, bases are basically electron pair donor. So that's why this ammonia is base. On the other hand, this aluminium is basically electron deficient center. So that's why it prefers to accept electrons. So that's why as it accepts electron, so according to the Lewis acid base concept, aluminium chloride is nothing but acid, because it is electron acceptor. Now why there is an electron deficient center is being created in aluminium, that can be understood from its electronic configuration. So this is the electronic configuration of aluminium. So you can see that in the valence shell electron, it has 3 electrons. So you can see these 3 electrons are 1, 2 and 3. So this 3 electron will form a covalent bond with 1 chlorine atom, 2 chlorine atom and 3 chlorine atom. So you can see that there are total 6 electrons in the valence shell of aluminium. So you can see that the octet of the aluminium is not filled. So if you gone through the octet rule, so it is very necessary to fill up the octet. In that octet state, the atom is become chemically stable. But in case of aluminium, this octet is not filled because it has only 6 valence electrons. So that's why this aluminium center is basically electron deficient. It has more tendency to accept electron because its octet has not been filled. So that's why it prefers this lone pairs of electron from ammonia. So that's why it is acting like an acid. Okay, so if you see that all the group 3a elements like boron, aluminium, all these are having such an electronic configuration so that its octet is not being filled. So that's why all these group 3a elements are very good candidate as an electron deficient center. Okay. On the other hand, there are some transition elements like iron, zinc. So these transition elements has some vacant d orbital. So this vacant d orbital can also accept electrons, so they are halide. So these transition elements halide can also act as a Lewis acid because as they have the vacant d orbital, it can also accept the electrons from another moiety by which it can accept electrons. Okay. So let's take some example here, the reaction between bromine and iron bromide, so, or FeBr3. So you can see that this lone pairs of electron is being donated to the vacant d orbital of this iron. So that's why this types of bond is being formed. So this is basically a Lewis acid base reaction. Okay. Now, if you see this example, boron trifluoride and ammonia. So I have already told you that all the group 3a element, like boron and aluminium, their octet is not being filled. So that's why this boron trifluoride, this boron center is very much electron deficient center. Okay, so that's why it is always preferred to accept electrons. So that's why it will act as Lewis acid. And if you see, this boron trifluoride is much more stronger Lewis acid than aluminium chloride. So, and these types of moiety is being formed. Similarly, this boron trifluoride can also react with methanol by these types of acid base reactions. On the other hand, this aluminium chloride, this aluminium center is also electron deficient. Okay, so it will also participate in these types of acid base reactions. Okay. So that's it from this Lewis acid base theory. This is one part of this Lewis acid base theory. In the next lecture, I am going to discuss about the in the next lecture, I am going to discuss about the carbocation and carboanion. So these are two very important moieties in any types of chemical reactions, and they are acting like Lewis acid and Lewis base. Carbocations are a very good candidate as Lewis acid, and carboanions are very good candidate as Lewis base. So how they participate in the acid base reaction, that I am going to discuss in my next lecture. And if you do like this lecture, you can subscribe to my channel Chembiosis. And thank you very much for watching this video till the end, and have a very good day.